Okay, here's the compressor that I have purchased and installed mainly for this project, but throughout this addition project I'll be using this for a lot of other things. Plan on getting floor nailer, drills, so forth to help me out. But this is mounted in the garage. It's still on the pallet. Some of the tools I used to put it in. It took a dedicated 30 amp breaker, which is very easy to install, right there into this box. This is a 60 amp, I guess it'd be a sub panel. The most complicated part is to make sure you get the same breaker, right size breaker, and to make sure it's the right brand for the right box. Then I ran it over and hooked up put in a dedicated circuit. This is a dryer plug, and it is very important that when you do this, if you're going to do this with a compressor, you should run a dedicated circuit. Don't use anything that was used for a dryer before, and I'll tell you why. You have 4 lugs here, and why is this important? Well, with a dryer, the traditional 3-prong plug, you have two different poles for 240 or 220, depending on which way you look at it. So half would be 110, 120. The other half would be 110, 120. And when you connect them together, you get 220, 240. Now, you also have a neutral in the case of a traditional 3-prong dryer plug. And in this case, this air compressor needs to be connected to a ground. And most people are thinking, yeah, that's not a big deal because eventually the neutral and the ground end up in the same place. But it could be dangerous. So when you do this, make sure that you run a dedicated circuit and with 4 plugs, four-prong plug, and you hook up the ground to this box and not the neutral. In theory, you should be okay, but it's not the code, and it also, in theory, could be very unsafe. So in this case, got it hooked up correctly to a 4-prong 220 outlet, 240 outlet. So if somebody comes along later, I get some work done at my house, somebody comes by for whatever reason, they unplug this and they plug something else in here, this receptacle is wired up correctly. I don't have a ground wired to it instead of a neutral or anything like that, or we're rolling without a ground. It really bothers me not to have a ground when you're standing here on the concrete floor and messing with this. So anyway, on to the size of the compressor. It is an 80-gallon, 5-horsepower compressor, 5 horsepower motor right here, and single phase, and it doesn't have anything crazy like a magnetic connector or anything like that. Just has this switch right here. Single stage pump with 2 cylinders. You got your sight window right here, 2 filters, nice size belt, everything back here, it's enclosed. Now here's the specs on this. 5 horsepower running, 16 SCFM at 90, 17.3 SCFM at 40. Max pressure is 155 psi. It kicks in somewhere around 115 and fills itself up pretty quickly. I got this one. There was a smaller 3.7 that I'd spoke to the people at Sprayez about. They said it probably would do the trick, but the price between the 2 of these was so minimal that I just went ahead and got this to make sure I did it right. This is something that'll last me for years, hopefully. It's got the 3-year warranty. The other nice thing about this is this particular head and motor, you can get these at Harbor Freight all day long. So if I ever need to replace this after the warranty period, then that's really easy to do. The other one, I didn't see the type of pump that went on that, so that's really easy to find. This is really easy to find. And those are the only two things that are really going to go wrong on this. Anything else would be, I mean, I guess the switch could go wrong, could go bad, but I doubt it. More than likely, it'd be something up in here. But anyway, that's how I have this set up. Now, this is where people can screw up as well. I've got this filter dryer right here. That is prior to the regulator, and the regulator set at 100 psi, and it stays at that. I also got a one-off valve right here. I guess I really don't need it, but I've got it. Now, onto the hose. This hose is a cheapy hose, but it is 3/8 inch. It's a 3/8 inch hose. I wouldn't go any smaller than that, and especially not at 100 feet like this is. Now, it is kind of cheating a little bit. It takes the 1/4 inch adapters as opposed to the 3/8 or the 1/2, which in theory you are going to have a little bit of a choke point right there, lose a little bit of CFM, but I think since it's only going to be in two places, at the beginning and the end, that you're going to be fine unless there's another issue here. So, but again, the tests turned out good. Now, I have read one blog on the internet about these things, and a guy that didn't have one of these seemed to get himself into a little bit of trouble with the foam. So I would have had one of these on there anyway, but it was good to kind of see that I was thinking the right direction. So yeah, I'd say this would be big enough. I wouldn't go any smaller than this. You know, you can go down to a rental center and rent one of the big tow behind compressors. But in this particular case, if I'd rented it for a week, I could have just gone ahead and bought this thing. And that's what I did. So, and I'll use this for many other projects. So I'm comfortable with the wiring, didn't have any issues with the wiring. Oh, one last thing before I get done with the compressor portion. This is the wire that was used to wire up the compressor, 4-strand. It's Romex. I'm trying to remember if it was 10-3 or it might have been, I doubt it was 12-3, but 10-3 or 8-3, but this is rated for 30 amps, so make sure it's rated for 30 amps before you do it. If you're at all unsure about the electrical portion of this, do not wire this thing up yourself. Get somebody to come do it for you. You know, with the stone floor and messing with, you know, 2 phases right here. Well, it'd be single phase, but 2 different bars coming into the house. You could really fry yourself easily touching the stone floor and touching either one of the lugs where the either side 110, 240 when together are coming in. So if you feel at all uncomfortable with that, with the electrical portion, get somebody to do that for you. So I am happy to say that the entire fastkick kit, when accompanied with the air compressor, square board footage is still cheaper than what I would have paid somebody to come out and do this. So let me start moving some stuff around and taping up stuff that I don't want foamed.